7th. I just said hello to my students here. We're going to be learning a lot more new things and new exciting applications that we're going to cover in the next several weeks, right to the end of the semester. So let's get started with the lesson today at hand, and let's share the screen. How's your user persona assignment? That one's done, right? We're finishing that one up. The next one is the UI kit for mobile app. So that's the next assignment I'm going to give you today as well. Perfect time for us to incorporate Adobe XD. I think we'll do a little bit of Illustrator and XD together so you can see how to relate the two Adobe programs and easy to go one to the next. Photoshop even works with Adobe XD as well. So we'll see how those can unite together because you're already proficient in using Illustrator and Photoshop. Nothing wrong with doing the design and using XD as your delivery prototyping program as well. Okay, so we're gonna work with that later. Now I want you to talk about, we're gonna talk about the skeleton here. I'm gonna download the PDF file here, and we're gonna talk about that because we're wrapping up the UX segments, and we'll get into the UI segment as we transition further. And then I'm going to show you some examples of some of the UI kits. I used to have XD resources. I'm going to share them with you again so you can see how these XD UI kits work. I don't know if you've done a UI kit before. If you haven't, it's a really good portfolio piece to have. So as you're building your portfolio now, you're going to use a lot of stuff from your other classes, right? For this class, you're going to have the user persona. That shows how you can tell a compelling story doing product research and analysis. Then you're going to have a UI kit. Then you're going to have wireframes. You're going to have a prototype, like a rough draft. You're going to have information architecture. And then you're going to have a finished deliverable interactive product, which is an app. So that'll be your portfolio by the end of the semester here, okay? For my class anyways. Then you have your stuff from the website with Felicia's class. With Roberto's and Sheila's classes, you have the other materials that are there. So you have a pretty nice portfolio, okay? That'll get you, in the industry, and hopefully you want to pursue something different, you can, right? Good time now anyways. So let's look at this defining skeleton first. I'm going to double click on the PDF. I'll do a full screen preview. So as you know, we covered strategy, scope, structure. These are all important fundamental things when it comes to UX design. Now we're talking about the skeleton, and the last one is called the surface. We'll cover that next week. And we're going to basically do more hands-on approach to these programs by incorporating XD, Figmas and stuff. So what is the skeleton basically? As you can see, it's from the anatomy, human anatomy, to almost anything that out there. Everything's kind of interconnected, right? Everything's very important, and just putting the pieces together. Function given form, basically, the skeleton plane focuses on concrete issues of presentation. What form will the product take, right? How will users move around and do things? How will content be presented and manipulated? The skeleton plane is created through interface design. So this class, before it was called UX UI, this class was called interface design. So the stuff I taught you so far, this stuff wasn't being taught. Guess what program they used? InDesign. How much InDesign can you really learn? So they learned InDesign, so we just scrapped that whole thing and reinvented this whole course, right? We added UX, of course, we added UI, everything. So UI is still an important part of this course, and this focus is more on that subject right here. So the skeleton is more like the user interface design. So which provides users the ability to do things, obviously. The work on the skeleton plane has to enable several key principles of positive user experience. We talked about this, but just to reiterate some of the important things, they are obviously the points you see here when someone looks at a screen, just like you looked at my Canadian Made Products platform. I was hoping I covered all these checklist points, right? Google doesn't help, I know, but that's something I can't control, and that's what time will fix that. But when you look at it, does it rapidly establish value in the user's mind? Does it lead users towards continuing the experience? Does it introduce specific content at the most relevant, most appropriate points in the experience? Does it add immediate value with each click or tap? Does it add positive overall experience over time with each interaction? So these are all important things, right? You have to establish when you build a product, a website, or an app. And that's what the interface does. Without a good interface, you're not going to get a lot of positive experience. This is the features versus usability. So the number of functions available on screen has a direct effect on how useful the product is. The more functions shown, the less useful they are. True or false? Sometimes too much is not good, right? It's overwhelming to the human eye. How much information can we really take by looking at something? So you got to have that fine middle ground point to establish what the user interface presents. So good usability versus poor usability, few features, and the many features, and the happy middle is here somewhere. You don't want to have too little or too much, right? Habit and reflex account for much of our daily interactions. Our ability to do anything depends on the accumulation of reflexes, most of which are pretty small. Convention is what allows us to use these reflexes. Conventions, these are called conventions, often match our expectations of what something is supposed to be or be like. I mentioned this last week a bit, right? We're not gonna change the inevitable, right? When people see a trash can, they affiliate it with trash. When they see this little search icon, they know it's a search icon. These are fundamental conventions that you've got to stick with. You can't just change the look of these. They're already enrooted in people's minds. So we got to work with these. As a designer, can you make them look different? Of course, absolutely. Maybe add some colors and things like that. But these are the conventions that you have to stick with. Now, the only time you should deviate from well-established conventions is when there's a clear, obvious benefit of doing so. I don't know if you remember the old iPhone. Was it Android or iPhone? I think this is it used to look like this. Do you guys remember that? And then it went to like that. See, the transition of the interface changed, right? And this was because they had more functional specs here. You can see the clear screen of what's happening. So they did make the adjustment for a good reason. Although the functionality of an app or site is important, the form used to deliver that functionality is equally important. Organization of content, the layout of the screen, use of audio and video, how people use their hands and fingers to move through data. No matter how technically superior the code or how the code deep its functionality, the bottom line is an app or site without interface, it would be difficult to use. It won't be used, okay? But without a good interface, you're not going to use the product, okay? To most people, the user interface is the actual system, right? A well-designed user interface allows people to start using it immediately with little or no help. UI design has to be audience appropriate. Just because you understand it doesn't mean someone else will. So that's why we do a lot of testing and surveys and things like that. Inappropriate UI design is the #1 killer of great product ideas. It's better to perfectly meet the needs of the critical few than to poorly meet the needs of many. Very good saying. We talked about this a little bit last time with predictability, labels, instructions, and icons. Just to reiterate some of them, you have to integrate these things to let people feel comfortable with your product or app. And you see this with tutorials and applications and updates and things like that, right? Usability improves with similar parts are expressed in similar ways. The functional consistency leverages existing knowledge. Familiar meaning and action, navigational reference points, simplified usability increased intuitive learning. And of course, the number one objective is also, especially these days, whenever you build something like a website, especially, you got to make sure it's responsive on tablets, mobile devices, of course, and the desktops. Like if I taught this class 15 years ago, we didn't care about these so much. It was strictly, our students made websites strictly on the computer. Nobody cared about responsive design. It was a different HTML version. CSS was still around, CSS, HTML, but we didn't really care about responsive design. Okay, we didn't have Bootstrap. Okay, we didn't have the other methods that you're learning right now, right? Core principles, progressive disclosure means that everything should progress naturally from simple to complex. It means that only the necessary or requested information is displayed at any given time. This helps people manage complexity without becoming confused, frustrated, or disoriented. Information presented to a person who isn't interested in it or isn't ready to process it, it's noise. So remember, intuitive really means single trial learning. We learn behaviors from experiences across the web, devices, and from real world places and objectives. Interactions should be easy to learn, which makes them to be easy to remember. Ideally, use it once, learn it rapidly, remember it forever. Reality is we use it a few times, learn it, and hopefully we remember it. Okay. Context versus hierarchy are items that are functionally or logically connected, grouped together visually. Is information presented in order of importance to the user? This is a really good example. This is like a staple now. I think if you open your phone right now, you'll see a similar design interface. The first thing people care about is now. What's the weather now like outside? And that's the biggest thing that you see there, 70 Celsius or whatever. Let's say it's -2 or whatever degrees we have here in Toronto. Second thing is you want to know what's going to be the weather like later today, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, right? That's the second important thing that's being displayed, right? So somebody had to design this interface for it to display this information. The next thing, the less important thing, if you care, what's the weather going to be like on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? It's the third thing that's important. So by creating a visual hierarchy, you're demonstrating the important stuff to the user. And this is done through studies and stuff. And of course, a good example of that is this weather app. It's a mental model of the person using it. Here's another one here. This is like a pharmaceutical portal. This, like, sometimes the interface is complicated, but one way to make it relevant and easy to convey is by organizing it in tables. And you know this, tables, rows, columns, sections. And you can use colors like the blue, like for the heading. So you separate information, organize it in a way that people can understand it, right? So same thing goes here, same points apply to this very complex looking interface where it comes to, in this case, prescription medication. Hicks' law was posited that every additional choice increases the time required to make a decision. The more choices you give people, the easier it is to choose nothing. It's not information overload, it's filter failure. Have you guys seen that before? Have you used Waze before? I don't mind Waze, but sometimes it's like, what the heck? All these little pop-ups come up and these little bubbles, chat bubbles and stuff. Or even, what's the other one? Snapchat, right? Has similar stuff. But if you know how to zoom in and use it properly, it's not a bad UI. But sometimes I've seen clutter and stuff, and it doesn't really work too well. Right? So you have to filter it properly for it to be more functional. Again, if it's not information overload, it's filter failure if the user doesn't know how to use the system. Now we're going to cover some more interface design techniques with the next presentation, but now, because I wanted to have some time for us to do some practical stuff, I'm going to ask you guys to, let's look at the assignment first, and then we'll look at XD. So that's it with the presentation. There's a thing called here, components for the UI kit. Let's read first what it is. This is your next project, or assignment, I should say. Now with this one, you're also going to get the project really, really soon. So I'm going to have to talk about that next week, okay? But for this one, you can get started today. You're going to be designing a rough layout model of a user interface kit, okay? To support the design elements that will play a key role into the design production techniques applied to the mobile prototype project, which is coming up later on. So you can put that in perspective. The class exercise will give you, of course, a good example of what you're going to be doing alongside with the supported UI kit elements. So this is the actual PDF I think I put together. This is the criteria. So if you look at the actual PDF document, you'll see what I just kind of talked about. I want to see a rough draft, like a grayscale version of your UI kit. The good thing about portfolios now, everyone can rip up stuff online, and who's to prove you did it, right? Like, did you do that? How do I know you did it? You can take somebody else's work and say, here, look what I did. Like, how do you prove that you did something? So that validates your work is this kind of stuff here. You show the roughs, the drawings, the preliminaries, and then you show the final product. It's like telling a story. What was that good old saying Steve Jobs said? The most powerful man in the world is the one that can tell a good story. Right? Those are storytellers. They're the most powerful, influential people in the world. So same thing, you can take that same kind of narrative and use it for your projects. Tell a story with your projects. It's a lot more interesting and more conveying than just putting a bunch of thumbnails and saying, here's my movie poster, here's my app, here's my website. Show how you did it, right? So talk about the positive, the negative, some of the hurdles you have to kind of stumble upon to get the thing done. So that's important. And this is why I want to emphasize here. You're going to produce a rough draft of this UI kit. Even the hand-drawn stuff is good. Because you don't have to be a great illustrator to do hand drawings, right? You can just do like roughs. And then you can actually go ahead and create the wireframe grayscale versions of the roughs. And then you can go and put the fonts and the colors and the materials to make the final UI kit for the delivery. Okay? And once the UI kit is done, then you implement to the product. It could be the app or the website. This is for the app, so we're going to treat it like an app design. But the next UI kit you're going to do will be an interactive UI kit, which means you're going to have the buttons go click, clack, roll over, drop down, little X closes the window, opens the window, sliders, the volume buttons, knobs, all kinds of stuff. That's the real UI kit. For this one, we're not ready to go there yet. This is more like design, visual design, and presentation. So I have a list here for you. You can do 3 various button/navigation styles. This is an example of a UI kit. You can have like a portfolio kind of thing on that. At least 3 various drop-down hamburger search menus. You can see one here, search menu. There's a little hamburger button menu that drops down. There's a drop-down menu right here with check boxes. At least 3 various sliders. What are sliders? Do I have this on my platform since I'm talking about my Canadian-made products platform? Yeah, I have the rollover methods here. There's my search engine here. I used to have a drop-down menu with my categories. I don't have one anymore, but look what I have. When I hit search, I do have different views. I have this view. I have map view. Like you can go all over Ontario. Look, when you roll over, look, that's a rollover. You see the business show up, right? So I do have rollovers. They'll open the map with the products. There's different ways of searching stuff on the internet. So I integrated 3 more powerful ways. Map view, geographical search. You have kind of like a visual deck search. So like the large thumbnails and stuff. And you have a list view search. So I do have 3 filters so you can see, right? Do I have the sliders? Well, let's say we click on some of the products here. Yes, I do have the slide. There's the slider here. You can search for a range of value. So if you want to spend, let's say, I don't know, less than $500 on a product, you can basically have a search type of sliders. So I integrated some of these things I'm talking about onto this website here. And you can see these are the three various sliders. Look, there's a slider here, there's a slider here for playing videos and music and things like that. A weather integrated widget or a map component. I just showed you what I did with my website there. But another one is the weather widget. So the weather widget, of course, is very popular. You can do a map widget or a weather widget. This is what a map widget might look like. Sometimes it's customized. Sometimes it's more like you have to design the actual map widget or the map that shows. But again, you don't have to do both. You can. Most people choose weather. It's easier. It's a little more design oriented. So if I were you, I would probably do a weather widget unless you really like maps. You can design something like this because the weather widget is very important to have in your interface. And you can see how many weather widgets are open. Mac, PC, Windows, Android, Apple OS. There's so many different apps that use weather widgets, and you can see some of the designs there that you have. So this is a nice addition to the UI kit, the weather widget. And the weather widget requires, a little bit of work. You have to, make it graphical, make it visual. You watch the news, you watch television and stuff, they have graphic designers doing those widgets too, right? And they tell you the weather and stuff. So basically, this is what we're doing next with this assignment as we get more kind of design oriented and follow these criteria points. So a rough draft and a good draft of this project. You want to see some student examples from last semester? Okay, all right, let me show you some. So some of them gave me the grayscale file separately. I do apologize. I don't have everyone in grayscale version, but I do have most of them. Like there's the thumbnails, there's the grayscale version, and there's like the rendered version, basically the colors, the images, and things like that. This is like one. I wanted to find both examples. I'll probably dig up a few more examples to show you, but this is one of them here. There's, like I said, there's some that are missing with the grayscale version. Here's another one. Okay. A lot of students chose to use Illustrator for this. When you want to use Illustrator and then bring it to XD after, you can, but you can just give me an Illustrator file as well. Here's another one over here. I'm just missing the grayscales. There's another one. Sometimes they gave me the copy on a piece of paper. They actually gave me the literal hard copy. Here's my grayscale, right? So I would take like their names on the back. I would collect that as well. So if you want to give me rough copies on paper, you can do so as well, or take a picture with your phone and then send it to me. Okay, so that's also welcome. So this one did a good job here with the UI kit as well. You can see some other examples, right? Look, weather widget, sliders, apps, the buttons, the drop-down menus, hamburger menus, all the stuff I talked about is introduced in every different UI kit example from my previous students. And there's some of the grayscale here, and there's some of the color versions as well. there's some roughs you can kind of, I mean, look, if you want to do something like this, if it helps you, that's fine. Then this could be converted into an actual, the product design of the materials. Like I said, I'm missing a lot of the grayscale versions. I think I'll show you another set of examples here. Here's another nice one here. But let me just dig up some grayscale versions because I think it's important to show you both. So here's a good example here. This was a WDDM student, did the same thing with the GDPW. This is his drawing, okay? So, okay, whatever. He's not a good artist. He said, listen, Milo, I can't draw too well. This is the best I could do. I said, no problem. But here's the next thing he did. He put that into a grayscale format, right? So he made this basically look like this, right? And then he introduced the color version, right? So, and there's this color swatch that he used, right? There's some of the fonts and everything. So this is what I'm kind of looking for, okay? To show me if you can do all three levels. And this is a great portfolio design because now you have a presentation. You can say from here to here and then to here. And believe me, it's easy when you do this because now you have an idea what you're doing by hand. You can then make it grayscale, right? Because grayscale has to look good too. And then you do the fully colored rendered version. Here's another example here. This is the grayscale version, and this is the colored rendered version, right? The drawings, again, I told you, they were done sometimes separately. They weren't taking pictures and stuff and submitted that way. Let me see if I can find a few more. Oh, here we go. Grayscale, color, right? I don't know, the design is different to each individual, but at least it shows the method there. Grayscale, color. Quite the weather widget on this one, eh? There we go. You can do that in Illustrator, right? A lot of glows. That one was not finished. Either, I think there was a map on this one he was trying to draw. I said, you don't have to create a map from scratch. Here's another one, right? Grayscale, wireframe, kind of simple grayscale model, rendered model, right? So you can kind of show me both. This one didn't have the. Okay, here's another, I think that one that works. I think I showed you this one already, similar to it. Here's the grayscale version. Oh, here's the sketch. So again, if you don't want to give me your sketch, you can take a picture of it. This is the sketch. This is the grayscale composite. And then you have the fully rendered version, right? The color version. If you want to keep it like monotone, tritone, like stick with 3 colors, that's fine. I like when you have limited colors because it's more consistent that way. Most apps use kind of like a color wheel. So stick with your 3-4 colors. Throw a gray in there, black, right? And throw some color scheme. It'll be more consistent that way than just throwing every color, a red, blue, green, purple, orange, right? I mean, it depends on what kind of app you're designing, right? If it's like a fun kids app or something more, whatever that you're, designing, it's fine. But if you keep it color consistent, it just looks so more uniform that way, right? Okay, so again, grayscale and color. He was missing a few items, so I told him to get back to me and put some more things here. It's a little plain. But again, some people do a little less work than others, right? Okay, here we go again. grayscale color version, right? Here's a good example too, like grayscale, right? And then you have the colored version as well. Grayscale to color. And then you have the thumbnails as well. Another good example. Another good example. Ready? I'll stop. Okay. I know you guys are, how many examples you can show us? Okay. This is the last one. Ready? Thumbnails, drawings. You don't have to be, look, Cola's not the greatest artist, but he tried, he did a good job drawing. And then he did the grayscale version, right? And then he did the color version. And he just stuck with the blues and the whites and stuff. Right? You get the idea? If you want to see more examples online, right? All you have to do is go to Google and say, hey, Google, don't type in Canadian made products, right? You look for a UI kit, mobile, right? And you can get lots of examples from other professional kind of submissions that were done with different UI kits. You go to like Behance, you see all kinds of UX design portfolios, and the main thing is UI kits. UI kit's like a staple. You gotta have that in your portfolio if you want to show off your UI skills. So UI kit is really, really good to have, okay? Especially when you incorporate an app or product and you make it interactive and stuff, that's when it's real better. All right, so I think I showed you enough with that. I gotta plug in my laptop. Give me one quick second here. There's another UI kit from another student that submitted it. I don't have the grayscale, but you can see how she did a good job with the color scheme and stuff. It was grayscale before, then just a touch of color that was added on to the actual UI kit there. Since I'm showing you things like this, I'll show you some other projects later. Just a teaser very quickly. I did come across this one project student that was just floating around. So this is your group project, okay? So I'll give you a quick teaser of this, the last one that you're gonna do. This is when you work with a team of group people. This was like the preliminary hand-in. I have other files I'll share with you, but for now, this is like the PDF file, okay? So this is how you're gonna present your app. You're gonna tell me what the app is. So, and they designed a app called On the Way. Can you guess what that is, On the Way? It's transportation. They weren't happy with the TTC app. They were charging for Mississauga. They didn't like it. It was inconsistent. It wasn't working. So they made an app that works across all three: Go Train, TTC, and what's the other one called? Via or something? Via, right? So they wanted to combine one app and make a basically a solution for that. I was watching the news the other day. I saw a student that made an app for the underground downtown section. You ever get lost underground down? Have you been underground in the city? It's a huge underground system that we have. Nobody knows about it, but it's, you can go from College and Yonge all the way till Eaton Center and further. Let's go. I forgot the name of the app, but it was on the, they were talking about it. Underground Underground Toronto app. The tunnel. Yeah. So the student made an app because he goes, when you got a new job, 2 weeks it took him to understand the route to get to work underground. So you get an app for that. This is not that. This is different, but I'm using a comparison example. Sometimes from your experience, you can come up with something, right? So their experience was this TTC, Go Train and the MIA or the VIA, and this is pretty much their mission statement, their presentations, their logo, color scheme, market research. So one of you has to do this in your group to provide the presentation. Another one of you will do the wireframes, the prototyping, the UI kits, right? The design, and one of your other members, because it's three, will do the interaction, the actual buttons, the navigation, the work. All of you can partake in different roles, but some of you have to take more specialist roles. So this is the actual user persona. The user persona was done again for this. Then there's the main navigation. This is the information architecture. You're going to show how this will function, right? Look, home, right options, quick access, right? Hamburger menu. So this was all pre-planned. Then there was the beautiful sketches, right? So all this was put together before they created the actual product. Now let me show you the actual product. This is the Figma file. Now we're going to do XD first, just like we did with them, and then we'll go to the Figma files. I'll just show you quickly. I'm not going to get too much. I'll show you other examples later on when we embark on this project, but just to kind of show you where everything is going, because you're like, okay, we're learning this, we're learning that, because the UI kit is could be overwhelming sometimes. I want to show you all this leads to, okay? So basically, if you go to there's a file here. So there's the app. Okay. Did you see that intro? You guys missed it. You looked away. Okay. I'll play it again. There was an animation. Look, you got to watch. Because there's the loading screen. It happens, see, very fast, right? The purple goes to the blue. If you open a lot of your apps, you'll notice they have an animation. My bank does that. Bank of Montreal has a logo, blue coming at me, and then it goes to my banking information, right? They'll have a little splash screen. Think about the details of that. So they did it, which is great. Then they have like a login page, very common in most apps. You got your logo, your color scheme, login, sign up, or guest login. So you can do either or. I like the guest login feature because not everybody has time to make an account, make a password. You just want to quickly get something, right? So good option to have a guest login. That was their big talking point, how to make it more convenient for one-time or first-time users to do like a guest login, right? So you do that or this, you're in the system, then you put your information, you log in, and here's your app, basically. Now, we can make this map interactive. So in the program, you can actually navigate through the map as well. This is a functionality that you can do in XD, okay? You can also make everything work like a real app. As a matter of fact, if I open my phone, I can show you what it looks like on my phone and present it as an app. The XD does really, really well. Figma, I'm not a big fan of how Figma presents the products, but it works. XD does a nice job, okay? This is a Figma product, by the way. So then you have, the hamburger menu, basically, right? The logo, the settings. You can go through different parts of the app, the user, past trips, messages. You can message other writers or fellow colleagues or friends or whatever you have. They have an option for that. And you can integrate with that one. Keep in mind, this is something you gotta play with your phone. I'm using the mouse here as a presentation. Then there's different vendors. What public transport are you gonna use? because this app combines all of them in one. Pretty good, right? You can pick whichever one you want to go with. Let's say you want to use the TTC or want to use other, you can pick different one. Then you can go, oh, this is for alerts. If there's like construction or something, service alerts, it gives you, hey, line 4 doesn't work. The train broke down. Here's an alternate routes. So they have an alert section for that as well. Service alerts. Of course, the home screen we know, and other options that are here. So this was the actual app. I think they have another version that they made it more immersive, but that's just one of them, okay? Just to get a taste of what you guys will be creating after. And this is the file, right? So if you look at the file, this is what it might look like. Different screens, different pages. All it is you're creating different screens for the app to take place. Once you start using this program, it's actually fairly easy. You just have to use a lot of copy and paste and modifying graphics. All right, now I'm gonna close down Figma. And first let's do a little bit of Illustrator and then XD. So let's go to Illustrator first. Illustrator landscape file. I'm gonna go with 8.5 by 11. You can make a web prototype. I don't know. I know you know Illustrator. You're doing it in the other class. You're doing packaging, but you're doing print stuff. You're not doing web stuff. So for web stuff, look, you have a whole brand of stuff. We have web and you have mobile. You can actually pick an interface for an iPhone and create a whole prototype in Illustrator because you're familiar with Illustrator, right? You can actually do that and then make like a, design and take it to those programs and make it work. So Illustrator is a really good program for not just prints. So is Photoshop as well. But I would prefer Illustrator for this because it's more object oriented. So let's go with Illustrator. We'll go to web. We'll create a common web size. We'll hit the create button. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing things from scratch, but I'll show you some important techniques. But just for the record, this is something that we do in the other class that we do web development and design, something like this under, let's say, class 5, just to show you. So you guys know my Canadian Made Products platform. We took that and we made like a wireframe version of it, a very simple wireframe. And that then became the actual, from the screenshot, we made it a rendered concept, right? And then this, we made an UI kit, okay? So we just played around with some graphics. We did this all in Illustrator, sliders, buttons, drop-down menu, search engine, weather app. You know how to do this, right? I don't have to show you, but maybe some of the techniques, if you want me to review, I don't mind. And I'll show you some hidden gems in the program that can help you, like a button like this, right? How would you make a button like that, for example, right? All these things you can access in Illustrator, and it's fairly easy, especially on your level right now. So I know you know your Illustrator, but just to kind of show you how we did this to that, we just did a wireframe model of any website. I think we did Amazon ones. We can do any website, make a wireframe and then just make a website from it. To show you some realistic ones, there's CNN, right? Everything that you create has to come from some kind of wireframe. These X's means images. This is video. This is text and content. Then you enrich the website with the real appropriate stuff. So once you have a plan, you make a solution, basically, right? Here's another one, Humber. I think we did the Humber website too once. We did a wireframe for that. There's another Canadian Made Products. This was the early version of my platform. Look at the difference. See, that was the earlier version, and we made the wireframe, then we made an actual prototype, and then we made the website after, and things like that. This is the Humber one. See the Humber? There's a wireframe for it. And then we made an actual Humber looking website. Because then you know you have, look, a row, section, 5 columns, 5 buttons. You put the placements in. You have to have the structure first in order to execute the final product. Now in Illustrator, what we're going to do is this. I know you know how to make those simple buttons, rectangles and squares. You start off with the color scheme first. If you go to the colors here, you can access color guides, and you can, how you say your own colors and swatches, right? You guys use your own colors, right? Create your own swatch. That's what you want to do. Second, you might want to access some pre-made graphics that you don't want to spend time drawing a heart, let's say, right? Although I know you can draw a heart, or you can do 3D icons or 3D things if you like as well. Here you have something called, I don't know if you know this, symbol libraries, web buttons and bars, and web icons. It's right down here. So if you go to web icons, you can literally drop this in here. And this is a search icon you can use pre-made, right? Now, how do you change that to blue? How do I change that to blue right now? It's black. How do I make it blue? Well, I can't look. How do I make it blue though? It doesn't let me change the color. It's already vector. Look, I can show you. See, it's vector, right? Which one? Break link, right? Break the link. Because it's affiliate, it's a library item, right? When you break the link, now it's a vector file. Now you can do whatever you want. You can change it to, you can make it purple, right? Doesn't matter. Once you break the link, you're good to go. Then it's an editable object. So you can get stuff online, SVG files. If they're not editable, you can break the link or expand the appearance. Then you can own them, basically. You do whatever you want, right? You can really then take charge of the graphics that are there. Another quick tip I want to share with you is, so again, let's bring the hearts, break the link, and then it's editable, right? 2-step solution. Now, look at this. Previous. These have been here since I remember. I'm talking like 20 years. This is still there. Why is it there? Because back then we made more visual interfaces, and you can see how this button here is a button that looks like this, right? I can see this on apps, maybe not websites, but apps somewhat. But how would you make a fancy looking glass icon like that? Well, Illustrator, right? And then how would we change this or see how they did it? Well, remember, break the link. If you break the link, you can then break apart the button. This is just a triangle with a gradient, right? With a stroke. Look, you can change it to, I don't know, orange or something if you like, right? Like I said, you can own this afterwards. Now watch this. Sometimes you have to right click and ungroup more complicated shapes, because then you can see how they made this button. This is just a black and white overlay gradients on top of this gradient on top of this stroke. So you can do some surgery and break apart stuff, see how they did it, and maybe reutilize it on whatever you want to use, right? So this is how you can kind of grab these things and see how they're created. There's another one here, the famous orange button. This is a nice radial gradients. If I do break link, and look at now, how is this possible is, I don't know if you remember this in Photoshop, it's multiply. Remember the blend modes? This is set to multiply, so it overlays a nice darker kind of shade on top of the button. It makes it look 3-dimensional. If this is set to normal, it's going to look like this, right? Oh, it's got transparency too. Opacity, 80%. So you can see how this is a gradient, but you implementing blend modes makes it look that much more, compliant with your design or whatever you want to call it, right? So a nice little hidden gem here for you guys to explore and utilize some of these symbols if they can help you. Please don't make a UI kit out of this. I can tell. I'm familiar with, I know every little button's made, okay? So I want to see your buttons, not this. I'm just showing you this so you can get ideas and see how would I make something like similar to that, but my own version. That's how you can break it up, right? I remember Apple's website used to look like this. Like I would have students make Apple looking websites because they use the tabs. This was Apple's website 15 years ago. Look, they would do tabs like this. Look, they would do like that, Option drag, Command D, and there's the website with the tabs. And then they put the Apple logo would go here. They would put the banner here, text, and that's how they would make the website, right? And they would go and make it in HTML. We didn't care about mobile phones back then. They would make this into Flash, make it a Flash website. So they would do it in Illustrator. Then we would go to like Dreamweaver and make a website, right? That's how we would do things back then. But now you got to kind of program it in HTML. But it's so easy here to integrate these, visual elements, make things happen. All right, here's another one here. Right, these are like, I see this all the time. Certificates, banners, 50% off, all these deals. They always use these. So these are old school, but I still see them reinvented with new products out there, some of them. Look, the loading bar. Do you know this actually works? This works, right? You just do this, you just press Command D. See, look, Illustrator can do animation. You want it, right? Use step and repeat. So it's like a loading bar. Again, you can animate things to make it come to life. Okay, we're gonna grab a 10-minute break. I want you to start XD, and then we're gonna stop this recording. I'll start a separate recording to cover Adobe XD separately, so it's a separate video, okay? So we'll do that next. I'm gonna stop this recording here, and I'll see you in the next video very, very shortly, coming soon, okay? So let's do that right now.